Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight to see two great films, Dark Money and June Falling Down. My name is Andrew Phillips. I am the editor and executive director of Knock, and we are a new independent nonprofit news organization for Door County. And I am thrilled to be joined by John Adams, a Door County native whom you just saw in Dark Money. And John is the the editor in chief of Montana Free Press. John, how are you doing, and where are you joining us from today?
Hey, thanks, Andrew. I am doing well. I'm here in sunny Helena, Montana, where we're enjoying a nice warm fall. Shout out to my friends and community members who are in June Falling Down. It's a great film. Congratulations to Rebecca and everybody for being a part of that. And I'm kind of bummed that I'm not there to see both those films on the big screen in my all-time favorite movie theater there at the Skyway Drive-In. So it's exciting to be here.
Yeah, so many great memories at the Skyway for me, and I know for you too, John.
Yeah,
Um,
nothing like lighting those picks to keep the mosquitoes away.
yeah, exactly, exactly. We just saw some pretty serious issues portrayed in Dark Money. All of the implications of a non-disclosure of donations in political campaigns, and I know it's been a few years since that film was made. I'm curious, kind of where things stand now with those issues.
It's funny that you should ask. I actually have right here. Not a lot has changed. These these are just ones that came in the mail in the last few days at my house. So,
Oh my gosh.
no, I mean, the fact of the matter is dark money is still very pervasive in our politics. It's not worse. Some of the tactics have changed. That's it. I mean, so the 501c4 organizations like the National Right to Work Committee and Western Tradition Partnership, American Tradition Partnership, those organizations you saw depicted in Dark Money, some of those are no longer around.
Okay.
In fact, just this last week, here in Montana. I don't know when this is airing relative to the date, but back in September, I guess a district judge here in Montana actually levied the largest ever fine against two of the entities that you saw depicted in the film.
Wow.
But it was 10 years later, 10 years after the fact.
Sure.
These dark money groups know that. They know that by the time anybody figures out who they are, whether or not they broke the law, that the policy objective that they sought out to achieve likely that's already come and gone. And in the case of these two organizations, sure, the state of Montana just fined them $1.7 million. But the state of Montana and the taxpayers and the voters will never collect on that money because those groups have up and disappeared. And that's the thing with these
Mm.
dark money groups. You don't know who they are. You don't know who's funding them. You don't know who's responsible. And by the time we figure it all out, they've up and disappeared. They've pulled up stakes and they've moved to do something else. And so the
Sure.
tactics that we're seeing in 2020 are a lot, in some ways are different than what we saw in 2010 and 2012, and with the mailing lists and the postcards and the walk letters and all that stuff. That stuff's
Right.
different. But now a lot of this is moving online. And
Mm.
so where a lot of the dark money spending is happening today is on places like Facebook and Google and YouTube and Hulu and Roku and Tubi and some of these other streaming platforms. Now they've gotten very sophisticated with how they can micro target voters, and to the extent that you know with these we can see who's getting them. I know that I'm getting it. I can look at the ad. I can see who it's paid for. But with some of these online ads, they come and go in a flash. They're ethereal. You don't. It's not something that you can
Sure.
hold and kind of trace. There's no paper trail. And so if these platforms like Hulu and Roku and Tubi, if they don't disclose who's buying ads and who they're showing those ads to, then there's no opportunity for us as journalists or for the general public or for their political opponents to respond to that, to figure out who they are, what their message is, or what their agenda is, or in the case of candidates and campaigns, the opportunity to counter speak, to present
Sure.
a, a different perspective to those same voters. And so things have really gotten out of hand. I would say it's really no better today than it was back when this film was made.
Yeah, it sounds like these groups are really kind of getting away with this. It- from a governmental perspective, you mentioned, the fine that the judge handed down. Are there either at a state level or a federal level? Are there things that are being done or that could be done to create more transparency or disclosure in these issues, particularly you mentioned as these advertisements start to move online?
Well, certainly there's a lot more that could be done. Not a whole lot
Sure.
that's being done. You know, here in Montana, we passed a law called the Disclose Act, which basically says that organizations that want to spend in our state level elections, you know, in that 60-day window before the election, they have to disclose who their donors are. So if you're going to send out a mailer or if you're going to put an ad on TV in a state level election, you have to disclose your donors. And that law has been pretty effective, but it doesn't have anything to do with federal elections.
Sure.
And so that's where we're seeing right now, as you and I talk, we're looking at $75 million it's being spent just in Montana's U.S. Senate race,
Wow.
and that's just the disclosed money. That's not even the dark money. That's not even the
Right.
money we don't know about. So we're talking huge sums of money. And the fact of the matter is, these candidates don't really have any incentive to change the laws because in order to get elected, they've likely benefited from these third party spending groups. So
Sure.
it's not just Republicans, it's not just Democrats. Both sides do it. And so on the federal level, there's very little movement for you know, bringing our laws up to speed with the current technology and, you know, the public's demand for transparency in elections. You know, one other important point on that is many of these laws that we have, they date back to the 90s, you know, governing what can
Sure.
and cannot be done on the internet.
Dial-up
I
days.
Exactly. So we're talking, I think one of the most recent laws governing political advertising online dates back to 2006. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think Facebook existed in 2006, or if it did, in a
Right.
very nascent form. So, you know, the fact is, these tech companies have grown huge. They've grown huge overnight. They're no longer, you know, the baby in the crib that lawmakers
Right.
were afraid of smothering with too much regulation. They need to be regulated. And, you know, I think most people know they need to be regulated, but there just isn't the political will to do it. And then at the federal level, too, the Federal Elections Commission, the group that you saw in the film that deadlocked
Right.
3-3 on every major decision that faced them, well, they don't even have a quorum. So right now
Mm.
there are only 3 sitting commissioners, so they can't
Wow.
even take action, even if they had a quorum. You
Sure.
know, even if
Even
they're
if they had the support.
yeah, even if they did get along, they couldn't take action. So right now, all of the complaints that are coming in for this election, um, they're being investigated, they're being looked at, and they're being put on a docket. But you know, it could be years before they're even considered. And without reforms there, you know, there's just not likely to be any progress on this, unfortunately.
Sure. That's really unfortunate to hear. So I guess to shift topics a bit, one of the other things that the film portrays is kind of the change in the journalism industry over the past couple decades. Something I know that you and I both have experience with and are invested in. What was that like for you personally? And I'm thinking specifically of sort of the decline of print journalism and the rise of the new nonprofit model that you've been kind of one of the pioneers in.
Well, as my mom, who was a reporter for the Door County Advocate when I was growing up, she covered City Hall there for the Advocate many years ago. She reminded me recently via email. I sent her an article back in 2008 about the decline in local news reporting and how the traditional print journalism model was failing in the digital era. And so
Sure.
by the time the events that were depicted in the film, by the time 2015 rolled around and I was faced with, losing my job at the Tribune or taking a different job,
Right.
it was pretty clear to me that Gannett, the parent company of the Great Falls Tribune and incidentally the Door County Advocate, that they didn't have it figured out, that they were
Right.
failing to adapt to the realities of the digital age. And so I didn't think that that was a sustainable model then. And so I sought out in 2015 to try to see if I could figure out a different model. And so the Montana Free Press was formed with the idea that, the journalism that we do is a public service and it should be supported by the public. It's
Right.
sort of like a public utility, if you will, in my view, kind of the fourth branch of government. And
Sure.
and that model has been successful over the years. Public television, public radio, various other nonprofit publications that have existed for many, many years. And so I believe that true public service journalism is probably best served by being supported by the public or institutions that value, the civic institutions that, have made this a successful country for the last 200 years. So that's why I started the Montana Free Press. We're doing quite well. We've got a full-time news staff now, so it's no longer just me working out of the back of my truck. I've got a reporter, I've got three full-time reporters, a full-time editor, and one member of the business staff. Currently, we also work with a team of freelancers around the state. And right now we're able to publish on a regular basis, and we're making impacts here in Montana, much like you're doing, Andrew, in Door County there with your startup publication. So if you don't mind, I'd like to turn the tables for a
Sure.
second and ask you a question. What brought you to nonprofit journalism? What was your journey? How did you come to starting Knock?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up, John, and I appreciate it. I think probably somewhat similar to yours in some senses. I think, you know, I've been a journalist for a long time and obviously a Door County native and cared about Door County for a long time. And I think, the past few years I look at the county and just in conversations with my parents or with friends, there were so many cases where I just said, gosh, so this really needs a reporter to be covering this topic or this meeting or this government body. And so, finally, to be honest with you, the pandemic was kind of the last kick for me that there's these, major issues going on. And I think Door County and like a lot of places really needs journalism now more than ever. So for me, Knock has been kind of about, like you mentioned, trying to provide public service and doing that in a couple of ways. We're trying to fill coverage gaps. So doing things as basic as covering the county government, which hasn't really been done on a regular basis in recent years. Covering county board meetings, committee meetings, the public health department, obviously with COVID-19 going on, and the sheriff's office. And then really trying to do some in-depth reporting on big issues that affect residents, whether those are economic issues or health issues connected to the seasonal nature of employment for a lot of people in Door County, or the effects of the pandemic on the economy.
And Andrew, what's sort of your driving editorial philosophy? Do you have how are you publishing? Where are you publishing? How do people get your news?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're publishing online. DoorCountyKnock.com is the website. And we're really focused on not necessarily being a daily news source for, day-to-day breaking news, that type of thing. I think, there's outlets that do that, fill that role in Door County already, but we're kind of focused more on, taking a deeper dive, sort of what in the journalism world we would call second day stories or enterprise stories. After that initial news breaks, what's the bigger picture here? Why did this happen? What's the follow-up? What's going to happen next? That type of a perspective. So if people are interested in that kind of reporting, they can obviously go to doorcountyknock.com, follow us on social media. But I think the biggest thing would be subscribe to our email newsletter. You can go to our website and click the subscribe button and get that reporting, those stories delivered directly to your email inbox.
And how are you funded, Andrew? What's your model for making a living doing this work these days?
Yeah, absolutely. We're certainly in the early days, not as far along with this model as you are, John, but definitely trying to follow the same path with being reader supported and really wanting to provide a public service for readers and be supported by readers in turn. And I think the independence that provides is a really big and important thing.
Well, Andrew, I'm going to take out my checkbook and write a check to Door County Knock today, and I'm going to send it in.
Thank you so much.
Because I think that high quality, independent local journalism is needed now more than ever. And so, as somebody who is from Door County and cares about Door County, I'm going to support your work. And for all of you out there, I hope you will follow my lead and the lead of the other folks who I know who've gotten out there and supported Andrew's work at the Knock. They're vital news sources, and we're seeing it every day, the impact of our work here in Montana.
Right.
We're in the midst of one of the biggest elections of our lifetime, and we've got fewer and fewer journalists out there. All politics is local, and as Andrew very well knows, what happens at the county level, what happens at the city level, those community level decisions probably impact us on a day-to-day basis more than anything else in our lives. The presidential race gets a lot of attention, but what
Right.
happens at your local county health board probably has more actual impact on your life. So
Right.
I'm really excited that you're doing it, Andrew, and I hope that you're successful. And I'm looking forward to supporting your work. And I hope that those in the audience at the Skyview will join me.
Thank you so much, John, for all the support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, once again, if anybody else is interested in learning more or supporting the work that we're doing at NOC, you can check out doorcountynoc.com. If you're interested in supporting John and the work that he's doing, go to montanafreepress.org. And thanks so much again, all, for joining us at this event. And thanks, John, for being here. It's been great to talk to you.
It's my pleasure, and it's good to see everybody virtually out there. I can envision this sea of cars at the Skyway, and wishing that I was there. It's a beautiful place, and we're lucky to have it in Door County for sure. So thanks everybody
Absolutely.
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.